Hello and welcome to one more episode of the Allplane Podcast, where every week we cover some aspect of the aviation industry in the company of those that know best about it. But first of all, allow me a quick reminder that you can find all episodes of this podcast, as well as many other interesting stories about aviation, on our website, Allplane.tv. That's ALLPLANE.tv. As you may have noticed, one of the areas where we are increasingly focusing our attention is that of green flying. In other words, the different ways that the aviation industry is attempting to become more sustainable and decarbonize. And in today's episode, we have two guests that have been doing their bit to achieve this goal, to make aviation greener. Morell Westermann is a consultant and keynote speaker in technology and green energy, and Malik Aziz is an entrepreneur, media producer, and podcaster that happens to run Clean Electric, the #1 podcast in German language dedicated to electric mobility, which you will find on cleanelectric.de. Morell and Malik were co-organizers, together with some other electric mobility enthusiasts, of an initiative that made headlines last summer, particularly in Germany, Switzerland, and the German-speaking world. They completed an all-electric flight between the Swiss Alps and the island of Norderney off the North Sea coast of Germany. That's an itinerary of more than 800 kilometers, which they completed in 3 days and 13 stages. And during this journey, several records for all-electric flying were set. It is really fascinating to listen to such two enthusiastic green aviation pioneers, to listen to them talk about this trip and about electric aviation in general. So, without further ado, let me introduce you to our guests today. Hello. You are joining us from Germany, the both of you, or one of you is in Switzerland. Where are you based now?
So let me start, Malik. It's me, Morell. I'm based in Switzerland. From my English accent, it's probably not so easy to hear, but I'm originally from Germany as well. But I moved to Switzerland 17 years ago, mainly for flying. So this is where I'm based now here. 8 minutes from my home airport, which is a very, very small airfield, more or less. And I just returned from Schenis, which is the name of this small airfield. And we had this morning a nice production for a German TV station about the future of electric flying. So this is what I'm doing basically, and promoting the electric aviation in the last couple of months mainly.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to start by asking you to explain a little bit who you are and what you do, because I think you are very active in different aspects of what we must say the energy transition, electrification, and you have a number of initiatives. One of them is the record-breaking flight that we're going to talk about. But I would like you to explain me all these different initiatives that you guys are doing.
Okay, maybe I start with introducing who I am, because I come from a little bit of a different angle. My name is Malik Aziz. I'm based in Germany, in Aachen, totally in the west of Germany. And I am a graphic designer. I have a video production company. I'm also a podcaster for 5 years now. And also I'm part of one of... It's the biggest German-speaking podcast about electric mobility. It's called Clean Electric. And so I'm also very invested and interested in the energy transition, as you said before. So all of my work basically sometimes comes together, as in this world electric flight, world record electric flight, where I can use all of the things that I've learned throughout my life. But I'm not a pilot. I'm not flying myself. I'm just interested in getting away from burning oil.
Mm-hmm. Very well. So you guys were in the news recently because you were the organizers of a record-breaking electric flight that ran between Switzerland and an island in the North Sea in Germany. You basically managed to break 5 different records related to electric flight. I would like to speak a little bit about this project, because this is kind of a flagship project to show a number of advantages of electric flight, right? Can you give me a bit of a background of how this flight was conceived, who are the people behind it, and also, how it went?
Absolutely. I think this is, let's start a little bit earlier. I joined, or I'm invited to the Clean Electric podcast, Malik mentioned before several times, about some future topics, because I'm keynote speaker and moderator of events, especially in the domain of transition to carbon neutral transportation and energy. And so this was one of the reasons why I was invited to Clean Electric, where I met Malik, and then we learned a lot about each other, and Malik helped me to set up my own webpage regarding the consultancy or strategy consulting for companies who are willing to transform their business or build up their business in regards of electric transportation, electric mobility. And for this kind of video production, I invited Malik and his colleague Tom to Switzerland, to our home base Schennes, where we had one of the first ever electric airplanes. This was a prototype for the plane we were flying later. It was the Pipistrel, which is the company who built this, Pipistrel in Slovenia, the Alpha Electro. And one of my colleagues on the airfield, Marco Buolza, founded the first electric pilot school. And therefore, we invited the camera team to produce an interview about the potential and the vision of this not only electric pilot school, but as in general for the electric aviation. And this legendary tweet from Malik, and then you can jump on, Malik, was, I think, the initial phase of this project.
So the whole project started because of a tweet?
Yes.
Basically, yes. Yes. Basically, yes. It starts with a tweet. Yeah. 160 characters are enough sometimes.
Well, I must say, personally, I got involved in some very interesting projects also through tweets and other connections established a similar way. So, yeah, it's powerful.
Yeah, what happened was we were just shooting the nice interview with Marco and Morell, and I was just taking photos of the nice scenery in Switzerland, the Alps in the background and the hangar and the plane and stuff, and I tweeted about it in a way like, okay, if work always is as beautiful as today, then I love working, something like this. And one long-term listener of the Clean Electric podcast was Toby. And Toby is the brewer, literally brewing beer at Norderney. It's an island in the north of Germany, for the ones who don't know. So basically a cross-country tweet, if you so want. So he saw the electric plane, and he's an electric enthusiast, evangelist
since the early days.
Yeah, since like 20 years or something. And also the brewery, is very energy efficient, and all the cars and the trucks are electric, etc. So he knows about small planes because on the little islands, they are being used as a transportation device, not only for fun. So people do hopping from island to island. They go to the mainland, which is only, half an hour away. And so he was intrigued immediately, and he tweeted back, is like, hey, can we get that plane on my island? And I think, Morell, you jumped in and you had a call with him then.
Yeah, so it was an invitation to come over to show everyone on the island that the electric aviation is possible. And this was one of these main ideas from Toby, to show everyone, hey, not only delivering beer on this small island with my electric delivery trucks is possible today. No, flying from one island to the other and to the mainland is possible today. And he invited us basically to show the plane. And Norderney from Schennes is about 800 plus kilometers distance. So it was absolutely clear that we can't go in one leg, so we can't make it in just one full charge, let's say, and we need to stop overcharge over several times. But I reached out to Marco, said, well, Marco, we have an invitation to Norderney. Are you willing to show the plane over there? And he was crazy enough to say, well, yeah, it will be more a logistical challenge to make it happen. But from the aviation part, yeah, this is the reason why planes are designed. Let's go over and fly over there. And the next step was, again, reaching out to Malik, say, well, Malik, we have some crazy stuff in the pipeline already, and we are working, we are producing podcasts about this topic together. Would you mind to help us out with a camera and some audio recording equipment and making this visible? And
also social media,
social media, and Malik is the absolute social media guru, I would say. I'm far away from your ability, skills, and ambitions on that. So he said, well, yeah, crazy enough. And I think, you reached out to Tom, and then all this stuff started, right?
Yeah, that's what happened.
We must say that Norderney and Schennis, it's as far as you can go in a straight line in the German-speaking world.
Yeah, north of Norderney, it's finished.
Yeah.
Yes, on the North Sea, not far from Bremen. It's in the north of Germany, and Schennis is in Canton, Switzerland, Canton Zurich.
It's Canton St. Gallen, but St. Gallen,
near Zurich.
But near Zurich depends on. It's 1 hour drive by car in the southeast from Zurich. But yeah, it's Zurich area, I would say. It's Zurich greater area.
It's 800 kilometers in a straight line, more or less.
Straight line is, I think, 713, but we had to fly in some legs, and this is not the 100% straight line, so we had to add some additional kilometers on that. So I think from point to point over our stops, it was 838 kilometers. What was the effective flight line?
Okay, so then you had this idea, let's do this. So what was the next step? You had to basically come up with a flight plan, I guess, some logistic planning. You also had to set up a number of stops, make sure that you could recharge the plane and those stops. Can you tell me a bit more about what happened next?
Yeah, I will explain the flight plan thing, and Malik will be taking over the logistic thing. Mm-hmm. So it was absolutely clear that this can't be done in one leg. The Pipistrel Velis Electro, which was then the first ever certified plane following the Alpha Electro as experimental, has an endurance about 50 minutes. And this is around 100 kilometers, or let's say 60, 70 nautical miles. And it was absolutely clear that we need to split this distance into some legs. And while we are doing this, we said, okay, on every airfield we will land, we are the first ever electric airplane. So we need to make sure there's electricity available. We are able to set up our charging infrastructure, because absolutely no one had some charging infrastructure ready, even not for cars mostly, but definitely not for planes, because the only electric airplane now on scale, or let's say on sale, production sale, is the Pipistrel Velis, which is with an own charger, with an own charging plug. Basically, it's so
it's different from it's a different charging system. It's not comparable to that of an electric car. So
well, basically, yes. At the end, it's electric energy flowing, right? But it is a GBT connector, which is not commonly used in cars in Germany. Basically, we have Type 2 or CCS, and the GBT plug is a little bit different, looks similar, but it's a little bit different, and the protocol is something especially for airplanes. So we had to prepare our own charger, which is delivered by the plane as well. And while we are planning this, we came up with the let's say idea that it's probably not very wise to have only one charger transported by car, because a plane it's flying direct line, it's flying faster than a car can drive on German standard roads. It is we have to wait for the car. And then we came up with the idea to have 2 of these chargers, and we need 2 ground crews. And this is the part Malik will explain.
Yeah, since we found out that we really need 2 ground crews, we were, and this is a very important point in the whole thing, we were shouting out for help into the clean electric community. And just as an average, we have 20 to 25,000 listeners in the German-speaking countries. So we explained the ideas, like we want to go with a plane that basically only can fly for 1 hour. We want to go cross-country, and maybe somebody can help. And people were flocking. They were really coming in droves to help us. Literally that night we had to set up like an online Excel sheet to organize all the people who wanted to help. And first of all, they said, we can, like, this and that airfield is close to where I'm living. I can go there with my Tesla and I can test if the electricity socket that they have, if it really holds, or maybe sometimes those electricity sockets, they were there, but they haven't been used for 10 years. So we really needed to test it. And we couldn't drive ourselves across the country and test all of those airfields. So people were doing that for us for free, just because they were so excited about the idea. And also when we found out we need a second ground crew, we asked in a public Q&A, we were doing this on YouTube, hey, maybe there's someone else who wants to drive from Switzerland to Norderney and back, which is,
and
back, which literally means, you have to take the time. This was obviously an endeavor that would take 10 days maybe, and you would have to have, take your holiday or whatever.
So like a road trip though, huh?
Yeah, it's kind of a road trip. And, with all the difficulties, and we knew we were very dependent on the weather, so it wasn't plannable by the minute, and, et cetera, et cetera. And then there were Kerstin and Stefan, also listeners of the podcast. They were immediately intrigued. They called me on several channels, basically writing emails and say, we are in, we even have our own Model S. And I said, that's not even necessary, because Tesla was so kind as to provide us with the ground crew cars. But in the end, we even used their own Model S. So this was one of the first problems, like which car would hold this charger, because the charger is 75 kilos of metal. This is a heavy beast, and it's as big as a suitcase, like a flight suitcase, a normal one. A big one, yeah. So you need
a car. The trunk from the Model S, nearly 80%, I would say.
Yeah. So, there were some just very basic difficulties we had to overcome. But then this was when the team was completed. So in the end, it was Tom and I for the video, social media, and ground crew number 1. Then there was Kerstin and Stefan, ground crew number 2, and Kerstin did a lot of the organization. I'm going to talk about this in a minute. And then, of course, Morell and Marco were the plane crew, if you so want, the pilot crew. And Toby was organizing in Norderney, or on Norderney, I should say, all the event for when we came. But he also drove down to Switzerland to basically be a joker car, if you so want, to help us out, and he wanted to be part of the whole event. So he went down from Norderney, then he spent the first days with us, and then he drove faster towards home so he could organize the whole event, press event, and so on for when we would be landing. Yeah, so, and Kerstin did a lot of the logistics, and I must say, I underestimated that. She was using a better route planner. Maybe many electric drivers will know that little app or website for really figuring out when does car number 1 or car number 2 has to be where exactly, so we have time enough to orientate ourselves on the airfield, find the electric socket, unload the car, plug everything, wait for the plane. So when the plane is coming, basically we have 0 waiting time. That was our goal. And this was not so easy to achieve, because we also had to cross, for example, the Swiss-German border with all of that equipment. And you never know, is there a traffic jam, or, things can happen. But Kerstin did a tremendous job. She did an awesome job, and in the end, it worked well.
This was already in let's say in the doing of the project, but in the beginning of all these preparations, I sent out emails to every airfield we were heading for to check if there's a possibility to charge, if the charger or the plug, the electric power connector, is in range of an airfield, of an airplane, and there were crazy stories about that, because one of the friends and listeners of this Clean Electric podcast said, "Wow, I know an airfield here over there very well, and if it's not working out, we can pull by hand the plane over the road and bring it to a friend of mine, which is a garage, and we can charge it over there," and some crazy ideas. So there was an absolutely amazing support from the community, even with crazy ideas. We finally did not pull this, let's say, joker card, but there was so many ideas and enthusiasm around to help us. It was absolutely crazy. Regarding the airfield feedbacks, it was always the same, like, "Oh, cool, we are part of something very in the future. The ever first electric plane ever will land over here," and they had so many things supporting us. We never paid landing or departure fees. We were always invited, and I asked in my email, "So do we have some payment system for the electricity? So we will charge about 70 to 25 kilowatt hours. Is there anything we can pay this kind of electricity? Because it's not for free, right?" And no one had a payment system for that available. So they said, "Okay, to make it easy, we will just invite you for the power." And so we never paid any landing or departure fees, and even no electricity, which was cool. And on top of this, a lot of local guys reached out to their electric cars communities, and literally on every airfield we landed, we had some kind of an community happening. It was so crazy. I never had a follow me car in front of very little airplanes, but we had several of them. An electric Range Rover? No, it wasn't a Range Rover.
Mini Scooper.
Land Rover, electric Land Rover.
That one, yeah.
So home built electric Land Rover, electric Mini, a Twizy, some kind of. So the people were so into this and so helpful. It was absolutely crazy. So if ever someone from this community is listening to your podcast, thank you again for this absolutely stunning support. And regarding some logistics stuff, we figured out that we had a huge camera equipment, which got sponsored by Canon. Thanks on that. Again, we had, I think, several 10,000 euros, Swiss francs in camera equipment in the car. And then someone came up with the question, "So did you ever thought about taxes and customs? And if you transport some equipment and expensive stuff over a border, what does it mean?" And we said, "Oh, and we never thought about that."
Yeah.
And this really smashed us back. We had to figure out how we make this official, because this could break the whole project. So if someone was blocked on the border control with, "Okay, you have a charger about whatever 15,000 Swiss francs in your trunk, you have equipment for 20,000 euros in your car, did you ever thought about customs?" And so we had to figure out this as well. Again, it was more a logistical challenge than the aviation stuff. This worked out until the day we started the whole project. Then we came into real life, I would say, situation. The day we would start, and we planned to start, and as Malik said, everything was more or less planned to the minute. We had the worst ever rainfalls since, I don't know, years in Switzerland. So the airfield was flooded, completely flooded, 20 to 30 centimeters flooded by water. And it was absolutely no way. We had, I would say, 150, 200 people attending our media conference, press conference for the departure. And it was super hard for me to tell everyone there, "Okay, thanks for coming. We will have our event, but we can't depart today. We can't go today. It's so heavy rain," and everyone was soaked by water from head to feet. It was absolutely crazy. You will find some pictures on our webpage on that. And we had to postpone for one day.
But because you had a very, very narrow time window, right? Because you needed a certain amount of daylight hours to complete the different stages.
Yeah, the whole planning was limited on that. So we said, it would be easier to have a more, let's say, lead time for organizing such a project. We started from this legendary tweet to departure. I think it was 8-9 weeks, 10 weeks.
Something like that.
From the tweet to the real start of the project, some weeks left as well. So I think for the whole project, it was less than 8 weeks for the hot phase of this project.
And sorry to jump in, but including Morell's awesome work on collecting enough sponsors so we could even make it work, because the whole thing, we were sure, like anticipating about 50 to 80,000 euros. That's what it would cost, depending on what we exactly had to pay, and hotels on the way, and stuff like this, and the plane, etc., etc. So we knew it would be costly, and Morell, I don't know how you figured that out, how you pulled that off, but during these 8 weeks, we made it work. He made it work. So that was all at once. We had nighttime sessions, like Zoom conferences every night, and trying to figure out who could do what so we could possibly make it happen because of daylight.
It was really a 24-hour, 7 days project in these 8 weeks. Thanks for the flowers, Malik. I think in this project everyone used his superpowers in the best ever way, and I have a quite let's say interesting network in Switzerland, Germany in regards of aviation, transportation, and sustainable energy companies and people, and we finally made it happen from the financing point of view with only companies related to this domain. So we don't have any, let's say, insurance companies or banks or whatever, probably big money in, but we had everyone who sponsored and supported this project was really into this topic, and it was absolutely cool to see that everyone got the idea, and this is probably one of my things, storytelling skills and getting people onto the same page and connecting people. This is probably what's me easy, or what feels easy for me, and it worked really out. In 8 weeks we had the fundraising done, and it was clear we can go, but we didn't have any plane onto this.
Okay, I was about to ask you, when the plane was rented, was someone loaned it to you? Where did you get it from?
Well, with Marco and very, very good connections to Marco Pato, which is the main importing guy main distributing guy of Pipistrel airplanes in the German-speaking area. We knew that the first ever plane will be handed over to Marco Pato in the very south of Switzerland. And there was a date which was already postponed for several times. And we started the planning without having a plane available. This was not there in Switzerland.
But Marco ordered it 2 years earlier. He was supposed to get it in June, but he didn't yet because of Corona. I think everything got postponed. And then, Morell and Marco knew that Mark would have one.
And because you had you had one pilot, Marco, or you were piloting Morell as well?
Well, I don't have a license for this kind of planes, but yes, I was co-pilot, so I was benefiting from the airtime. I have now 22 hours training on this plane as well, so getting this license will be a little bit easier for me now. And regarding the plane, it was delivered, I think it was 15th of June or 20th of June, something around that, to the south of Switzerland, and then it was on the wrong place. And again, it was not easy to fly it across Switzerland with the limited range. So Marco was flying over there. His partner, Helen, was flying him to Écuviens, and he took over the plane. And then someone found out that you can't jump just onto a new plane. You need to familiarization. You need to make a type rating, something less than a type rating, but something like a type rating. And even Marco was part of the testing and the experimental flying and everything. Someone officially decided no valid license to fly this plane, so he really squeezed in some familiarization flights with an instructor, and then he brought this plane by air to Chenis, I think 3 days before departure.
Yeah, something like
Thursday.
We barely had time to put the stickers on.
Yeah, the stickers put on basically overnight.
Yeah, I guess. It was a close call.
it was a very close call, but at the end, it finally worked out until the weather,
which was good. Which was good in the end.
Absolutely.
But the next day you had nice weather.
Yes,
so you managed to take off.
Well enough weather, I guess.
Well enough.
Okay, and then 11 stops, right, between there and the end point.
Yeah, and with every stop, so we had some, let's say, weather on the edge.
Yeah.
It started quite well, and we had very, very much energy into the atmosphere. So during the first day, thunderstorms developed and rainfall and clouds are lower to the surface. So it was a challenge a little bit, but we were limited to VFR flights, so we had to manage around the thunderstorm stuff, and it was possible, and I think it was not risky at all, but it needed some experience for Marco and local knowledge we got from the airfields on site. So it was absolutely possible.
Maybe that's important to explain for the ones who are not into aviation. VFR is like visual flight range.
Routes, yeah.
Routes. Okay, and because we had like two factors. One is daylight, and you explained to me, Morell, that the daylight times in flying are defined by half an hour before sunrise until half an hour after sundawn.
That's correct.
So this is the whole time we had, and this is also why we were a bit trying to make this work as fast as possible, because this peak of summer was over and the days were getting shorter. So we knew if we wanted to do this in 2020, we needed to do it soon. This is why we only had 8 weeks. And also the second limitation is with that small plane, you're not flying like maybe what you know from a Boeing 747, just strictly on instruments, but only from what you can see. So visual flight. And that means as you told me, Morell, and Marco told me, rain in itself is not such a problem, but you need to be able to see other planes and
visibility
obstacles.
is the point,
Visibility,
yeah. In heavy rain, visibility drops down to nearly zero. This is then not anymore possible in VFR. This was where we were flying around the rain cells. And I think the first day we landed, it was such a thunderstorm, rainy thing. We had touchdown in dry conditions, and we had the first, I would say, landing beer in the hand, and then it really, really came down with thunderstorms and everything.
Because how long, when you had these kind of pit stops along the way, how long does it take to charge a plane and be back on the air? Well, you had 2 overnight stops, right, along the route. So in total, it was 3 days, but you had a number of stops where you just stopped and took off as soon as possible. How long did it take to charge the plane?
So in our planning, it was 2-hour time slots reserved for from touchdown to departure, 2 hours. And charging time was varying around 1 hour. Because we had some, let's say, challenging distances for this plane, we were departing only with 100% state of charge. And as you know from electric cars, the power flows a little bit slower at the end of the charging. So from 80 to 100% takes longer time to charge because the current is lower. And I would say in the daily use, 1 hour will be absolutely enough to fly around. But in this, let's say, edge case, we stuck on 100% state of charge. So it was 1 hour and 15, 1 hour 10, around this.
Because, this flight, obviously, the main purpose was to show the capabilities of electric flight. But you came up with a list of 7 records that you wanted to break in this trip.
Set up.
I would prefer to set up, thanks, Malik. Yeah,
sorry.
Breaking is only possible if there's some benchmark already there. And because we flew the first ever certified electric airplane, which is a production airplane, not a prototype, we defined our world records in this way that is done by a fully certified airplane, and there's nothing even in the FIA, Federal Aviation Industry, or in whatever Guinness World Records or something like this. There's nothing because it's the first ever plane, and we flew production number 3, so 2 and 1. still in Slovenia for pipistrel demo flights and further testings. And so the first ever sold airplane was the plane we flew around, so serial number 3. And this was the reason why we were able to set the records, and we didn't need to break anyone. So
I was about to say these 7 records were the lowest energy consumption, over 700 kilometers, the highest average speed, over 700 kilometers, the highest flight altitude ever reached by an electric aircraft, the fastest climbing performance over a number of ranges, so from 0 to 1,000 meters, 1,000 to 2,000, 2,000 to 3,000, the fastest average speed over 100 kilometers, the smallest number of intermediate stops over 700 kilometers, and the longest electrically flown route in 24, 48, and 56 hours. So you set the records in all of these categories. There's only 2 that were not possible due to the weather. I think are the 2 related to altitude, because they this full weather you found some points during the trip interfere with that. But all the others were successfully set up, right?
Yeah, exactly. And what's important to understand, and also took me a while, since I come from electric driving, but I have never flown before, so to speak, or had to do with aviation, is that obviously the electric motor, the electric engine is 4 to 5 times more efficient than an ICE car, like an internal combustion engine, in general. So with cars, with planes, doesn't matter. The electric motor is far superior in that. So it was obvious that we would be better in energy consumption. But even though you could say, okay, there was no world record set up yet for efficiency, for electric planes, that's true. But of course, there is something to compare it to, and that's the same kind of electric combustion engine planes that already exists for many, many years. Even the Velis that we were using, there is an equivalent with a combustion engine that is the so-called Virus, Pipistrel Virus. Exactly the same plane, different engine. And we were anticipating to use 4 to 5 times less energy, so 20 to 25% basically only, and that's what we also achieved. So for pilots, and we met many of them along the way, who were experienced in the so-called normal planes, they were really, that was raising eyebrows to tell them, yeah, we just came here on the plane, kind of a plane like the one but only on 20% of the energy. Mm-hmm. And so there is a comparison, and that's the standard, and that's combustion engines.
Yes, I wanted to go there because there's a number you mentioned that I found really amazing. It's like the energy you consumed, it's equivalent of 20 liters of diesel.
19, I think.
19 liters of diesel.
Yeah, from the Alps to the North Sea.
Yeah, 838 kilometers.
Yeah, that's a bummer, isn't it?
So that's crazy. That's
absolutely a bummer.
Yeah.
It was in the interview we had today with the TV team, I mentioned this figure and they was, what? Mm-hmm. It was absolutely unbelievable. So if you have a comparable plane, it will use around 4 to 5 times more diesel. And if you break it down to the costs, so every charge of this battery is about 4 to 5 Swiss francs, euros, whatever, call it 7 euros. 7 euros for 1 hour of flight. So it's just absolutely crazy. Electricity is a little bit cheaper than fuel, but you consume 4 to 5 times less. So the average cost of fuel for 1 hour flying is in this plane around 4 to 5, 6, whatever you count, euros. And if you compare this, or if you have this on this huge distance, nearly 840 kilometers, we had only 190 kilowatt hours on electricity consumed, which is absolutely crazy.
Mm-hmm. And you averaged 125 kilometers per hour, right? That was the average speed.
Yeah, all over, yeah. And if you compare it, I think mostly people are more used to energy consumption by cars. And in a Tesla Model S, which is known as a quite efficient car, uses the same kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers as we did. So we used 22.6 0.76, so around 22 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, which is absolutely comparable to a Tesla Model S, but we were flying and we were a little bit faster in average. So this
and
is
heavier.
Really
no,
heavier.
It depends.
Depends. No. The maximum takeoff weight of these people's drill Willys Electro is 600 kilos, so it's not a very huge plane. And the point is, it is so amazing how efficient the plane could be. And while flying, you do not produce any noise, nothing you can hear on the ground. And even it could be carbon neutral. So this is I think it's absolutely a milestone in aviation. So we had, I think, a couple of 100 plus years, more or less nothing changed in aviation so much. I think the internal combustion, the internal combustion engine was one very, very important step for planes. Then the turbines, I think the next leapfrog step, but then the electric engine came. And Malik, probably you will explain the story of this book, of the book
oh, wow.
of aviation.
Yeah. This is one of the stories that we, that happened basically along the way. Things you cannot plan for. There's a guy, his name is Alex, and he is, for 33 years now, he's putting together a book, the Golden Book of Aviation and Spaceflight. And I wasn't aware of it, but basically it's not really one book. I think by now it's 35 very big leather books. And what he's doing is he's collecting original signatures and photos and also like little stories of pilots and maybe crews who did something extraordinary for aviation, starting with the family. And I'm only talking originals. So he's flying around the world, meeting the people and letting them sign the book. And for example, Otto Lilienthal's family is in there. You know, there are photos of him as a child, and it's his, I think, granddaughter who wrote in there, or the guy whose grandfather built the engine for the Wright brothers. Or also, I think 45 astronauts, Buzz Aldrin, also the last guy who was on the moon, his name evades me right now, many cosmonauts, the guy who test flew the Concorde, for example, or, the co-pilot who survived the Mogadishu attack, like in the 70s in Germany, the Olympic attack, and had to stay on the plane for 3 days with shocked passengers, things like this. The guy who landed in the Hudson River, for example. You know, he has like endless stories like this. And Alex came out to see us twice to get our team in his book. And the next, he reserved that page after Otto Lilienthal's family for us, because he said basically we're closing into 100 years of aviation, and this is the turn of a page. You are writing history here.
And this is a personal project of this guy. So
yes.
This book is not like published or anything.
No, that's a unique book. No, it's one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think it's published in. He has a web page and in some newspapers he's already mentioned. I think it is his.
Yeah. There's media coverage about it.
But I think these books are only existing in one original.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So actually, I wanted to ask you about this whole historical longer-term perspective, because you both are very knowledgeable on all things electric and carbon-neutral mobility. How do you see things going from here? I mean, we have now this year we have seen lots of initiatives. There's a lot of talk of electric, of hydrogen. There's a lot of buzz around, and as you know, aviation it's quite slow because there's a lot of regulation, there's huge investment in the middle.
Right.
So what's your vision as experts in this area?
May I take over on this part? This is mainly a storyline I can present on stage and in consulting projects. And I start with a small story about creating popcorn. You know, you have popcorn into a pan, and then you heat up the pan, and nothing happens. So you have the oil and the popcorn and the pan and the fire under that, and you think, well, popcorn is now electric. aviation, electric mobility, conversion to electric mobility in general, and nothing happens. So this was happened the last couple of years. And I think the first popcorn popped up with the Tesla cars in the early days with the Roadster, and then with Model S and X, and now it turns really the whole industry, the transportation industry. And so we have a couple of popcorns already in our pan, and it's still popping, but it really starts now. So this is an exponential development now. We have doubling the selling numbers of electric cars or even plug-in cars every year. It's doubling. And with the aviation industry, I would say we were there 10 years ago in the automotive industry, and the same story now. The first popcorn pops now, and with the first ever electric airplane, it is not visible for a lot of people, and this was the main goal of this project, to make it more visible, to show everyone this is happening today, this is possible today. We have electric airplanes now, and in the next couple of days we will see this exponential development, same like popcorn pops into the pan, and the next airplanes are already in the pipeline. So there are 170 companies at the moment developing alternative ways of creating airplanes. The volocopter and Lilium stuff is everybody aware of. The air mobility, urban air mobility stuff is coming up. In UK, we have the first airline who will operate Pipistrel Velis electric planes to fly around from local airfields to another local airfield with a fraction of the price. And it really starts now, which is absolutely crazy time to be alive. And what we have achieved with this project is a huge media coverage, which really reached out to you and to show everyone it's possible now, and it's going. It's really, really starting now. And if you see how the electric batteries are developing in the couple of next years, so many investments are now flowing into the development of the next generation of electric batteries. Tesla is leading this pack again, but there are several other companies are trying to make batteries more efficient, lighter, more powerful and cheaper, and this will absolutely benefit the whole transportation and as well the aviation sector.
Yeah, certainly. I've been following this space for quite some time. I can tell this year you are seeing like how activity is kind of spiking. I mean, it's not that things that come out of nowhere, of course. There's a lot of work that was being done before, but now, I mean, it's like not a day passes that you come across some headline, some new news story, someone developing something new in this area. So yeah, I guess that's accelerating. There's people in the industry though that are of two minds of whether it's going to be electric or hydrogen though. When it comes to larger airlines, there's some people saying that well, maybe hydrogen it's a more viable technology for larger airplanes.
It's still electric though. That's what people sometimes forget.
Yeah, because of production, right?
No, I mean, it's an electric engine, the same as it would be in a battery electric vehicle. Mm-hmm. But instead of a battery, maybe you're putting in, some other form of fuel, some other form of electric fuel. But as I said, the engine in itself is so much more efficient than a combustion engine in any way that it will always be cheaper. And it's even cheaper also because you don't have to repair it all the time. And so I think just the...
less moving parts, right?
Yeah, this and there's not constantly something exploding inside of it, maybe. That's part of it. I'm just saying, just from the pressure of cost alone, electric will prevail. It must. Because it is, sometimes you have efficiency increases of like 1%. Like the last BMW and the next generation of BMWs, maybe they are better by 1 or 2%, even though they market it much higher. But that's basically what happens with combustion engines. Now you have a not even new technology, but a renewed technology that's coming around the corner and saying, hey, we are not better by 1% or 2%. We are better by like 80%. Or, even 50%, it doesn't matter. And of course, we have the pressure of the rising CO2 levels worldwide and rising political pressure by that. So that's going to drive the cost up. That's what I would project. And So all in this together, the electric engine, I think personally, is absolutely set. This is the future. And then people should start discussing, because of the weight of batteries, which is a problem, has been a problem for us.
How you store this electricity.
Yeah, how you store the electricity, exactly. So I think that's the point. And when people compare, or they set this head to head, like it's electric or hydrogen, then they forget that both are electric. Hydrogen just has a different form of storing fuel.
And the fuel cell contains a battery as well.
Yeah.
So it is a much more complex powertrain. Yes, you can store more energy with a lot of downsides as well. Before this, I would say we will see synthetic fuels to maintain our combustion engines or turbines for long distance flying. It will remain on some kind of fuel, but this is hopefully not anymore fossil. It will be synthetic.
Like methanol, for example?
Yes, and for short distance flying, it will be electric, definitely yes. And in the beginning, very short distance, as we flew in our leg, but very soon it will reach the same level of endurance we have in small airplanes today. So you can calculate when this point will reach in the future. So if you have a standard powertrain for a light aircraft like a Piper or a Cessna or what's the small one, 4-seaters, it is a standard like coming engine in there, and you can weight what the powertrain weights today and what kind of endurance you have. And if you project the efficiency increase of batteries and the whole powertrain and everything, then you will find out that in a couple of years, 6 to 8 years from now, so 2026 or 2028, latest 2030, we have an energy, power, and weight equivalent in electric power planes compared to what we have currently in these like coming standard internal combustion engines. So this is absolutely stunning to see that we started in 2020 today with a small and very limited range airplane, but in less than 10 years from now, we will fly everything what we have currently at the let's say small aircraft, light aircraft, 4-seaters, something private pilot flying around in electric planes.
One thing we didn't mention, by the way, is another form of pollution, which is noise. And this is why the electric plane is so stunning for most people when they came out to the airports. Once the plane starts and it is like 150 meters away, you can't hear it anymore. And
fades away in the background noise. It's absolutely crazy. So a lot of camera teams missed our plane because it makes no noise. As you said, we were landed and everyone, oh, you're there. Yeah.
And imagine you're living close to an airport, or maybe an airport has restrictions, flight times, because people shouldn't be too annoyed. And this is one of the reasons why Toby was so interested, not only because of the combustion engine and burning oil part, but also because on the island you have the loud planes in the air all the time. I call them lawnmowers, like meh, all the time. But with the electric planes, you just don't. And I'm asking Morell, who is also an avid pilot for, what is Segelflugzeug in English?
Gliders.
Gliders
and paragliders.
How is it with pulling up gliders, for example?
Yeah, well, I think all over the world, gliders are pulled by a winch, which is limited in height you can gain. I think so 400, 500, 600 meters is the maximum limit because of the rope, the steel rope weighs some kilos. And if you want to go higher, and in the Alps you need to go higher, then you have the aircraft pulling planes. So you have one motorized aircraft in front, then a rope, and then the glider behind, and so you basically fly 2 planes into the air to launch one of them.
Yeah, very short distance, right? It's loud,
right.
It's heavy. So that would be perfect.
It's absolutely crazy. So the camera team today was interrupted several times by the launch activities of our airfield, and Malik, you remember probably our interview were interrupted as well several times.
Very loud.
Because they're really loud. And it's not only the propeller, and it's not only the wind from the propeller and the plane itself. It is mainly, especially in the start phase, it's mainly the engine and the planes
with combustion engine planes.
The combustion engine and noise from the exhaust is one thing, but the vibrations which are transferred to the whole body of the airplane is another thing. So you have like a drum. It's resonating and sounding like a drum, especially the old airplanes with some how do you call it? It's not steel. It's
aluminum or no?
No, the
plastic. What do
stuff,
they?
Ja, Bespannung, also die Stoffbespannung.
Ah, okay. I wouldn't know. Like the cloth that's put around the body of the plane.
Right,
okay.
And so it really resonates like a drum, and this is a significant amount of noise. And compared to the previous trail, it's really, as it lifts off 50 meters in the air or 20 meters in the air, 150 meter distance from the viewer, it really fades out into the background noise of whatever surrounding. It's absolutely stunning to see. And during flight, to be honest, Malik, you flew once in this plane as well. It is not so quiet, but it's less vibrations, it's less noisy, but it's not absolutely quiet, to be honest.
And no oil smell, no gas smell.
No oil, absolutely, yeah. It is very, very, very promising to see, and I think if you experience this once, it's same like driving an electric car, you probably won't go back.
Yeah. And if people want to get an idea of how the whole trip looked, we just finished our after movie. Maybe you can put it in the show notes. We put together like a 6-minute movie that, it's in German, but I think everybody can understand what's going on.
Very good. Yeah, of course. Yeah, actually, I would like to remind the listeners as well that I'm going to put the notes with links to the resources and different aspects of the trip we commented. There's also a story on Allplane.tv, Allplane.tv. I put out a story with a main summary of the trip. And
that was very precise. It was a good one. It was a pleasure to read.
You gave me very detailed info, so that's it helps to have good sources. Just wanted to wrap it up by basically asking you, people that are interested in this field, where can they find you? Where can they find out more about your projects? Because if I understood correctly, this trip is a sort of a one-off, but you are not. It's not a company that you have set up. I don't know if you have planned to give some continuity to this in some way, to have other trips, other record-breaking flights, other activities.
Let me start by saying I had a new idea just recently, but it has nothing to do with flying. And it's all going to happen around this Clean Electric podcast community. So once we are ready to put it out to the public, we will, but this will take some time. So we have to find out if it's doable. People can find out more about me, and it's quite complex. I'm playing in bands and doing all kinds of stuff at malik-aziz.de. I guess you're going to put it in the show notes. And I hand over the mic to Morell because he's the guy you want to talk about with aviation.
Malik, 1 second before you hand it over, can you please remind us as well of your podcast? It's Clean Electric, the Clean Electric podcast?
Yeah, it's cleanelectric.de. So it's in German. So it's in German, exactly. So for the German-speaking people, I think you will find a very rich information about all of this. Also, Morell has been on the show, I think, like 7 times by now. And we also did 1 or 2 dedicated shows about the world record in even more detail than we could do today.
Okay, I'm going to put a link on the show notes because I'm sure at least some of our audience can read German, can understand German. So that's going to be a useful resource to
you're welcome.
There.
And Google Translate will help as well. Regarding the follow-up projects, you asked for what's next. So this electric world record flight was definitely a one-off thing. I think it was an absolutely stunning result and media coverage on that. So everyone got the idea that electric flying is possible now and today, which is cool. This was the main goal. I think we achieved this very well.
Yeah.
And the follow-up thing, which was a little bit, let's say, started in parallel, is the electric flight school in Chinese. So Marco founded an electric flight school a couple of months ago, even without a plane. And now we have one, two. We have two of these. And you can learn flying now with an electric airplane, or you can learn to fly an electric airplane if you're already a pilot, which is cool. This is one thing, and the other thing is I'm quite often invited now into whatever conferences or company meetings to tell the story about the electric world record flight and the electrification of the aviation industry, which is very nice. And I'm quite well connected to the Swiss aviation industry, the innovative part of the Swiss innovation industry, and this is mainly what's going on here on this side. For me personally, if anyone needs some whatever speaker or storyteller or even a consultant about this, how to transform your business into the sustainable transportation or energy sector, reach out to me.
How should they contact you? What's the best way?
I have a webpage, Morell.io for input-output, which is set up by Malik and team as well. So the trailer you find there is a Shapes production, which is a company from Malik. So you see everything comes together here. We're connected. Yeah. But it really makes fun to work with this guy. Thanks you so much, Malik, for your efforts here. And even the 6 minutes film about our flight is such a touching and emotional film. It is absolutely stunning. The sound connected to the pictures. I'm really amazed about that.
I'm flattered. Gonna tell it to Tom. Thank you.
and even Tom. Yeah, don't forget Tom on that. And I would say the next steps here: electric pilot school, which is amazing. We are now in very, very interesting discussions with electric grid providers and charging infrastructure providers to set up something what Tesla called supercharger network, I think in Spain and all over Europe as well, over the world as well. And we were now heading for electric power chargers on airfields. So this will be the next step, and let's go for it. So it's absolutely a greenfield approach. And I'm happy to share my knowledge about how to approach to to airfields and to airports about that, to tell the story and to get this onto the same page and excite them about that. I think it will be definitely the next stage in aviation industry, and there's so many things to do and so many business opportunities for companies in this field or starting to go into this field. Reach out to me. Yeah, it's cool.
I have one more. I have one more tidbit which could be interesting. Yes. I recently had quite a long interview with somebody from Australia, from Sydney. That's shout out to Nick Maher. A very nice talk. Like today, and he told me he also spoke to Ivo Boscarol, who is the boss of Pipistrel before. He's a filmmaker. Nick is a filmmaker, and he's also learning how to fly a plane. Like, he's becoming a pilot, and he was so intrigued by our project that he said, he was apologizing. He said, "I'm sorry, maybe I should have told you before we had a long talk. Like, I had the idea to do something like you guys did here in Australia, and I don't want to step on anyone's toes." I'm like, no. We set up those world records so everybody could basically break them. Because the more people are getting into this field, are getting into electric planes, the less people are going to, burn oil flying combustion engine planes. So you're more than welcome. You can have all our resources. Just text me, ask me. I'm going to give you all the help you need to make this happen. And I think so far there's no Pipistrel in Australia, but they are coming. So I would be more than happy, like, I don't know, in a year's time or whenever it's going to happen, to see another follow-up movie to our after movie, because Nick and maybe a team made it happen down there. So the thing is spreading faster than I anticipated, and I guess the team, we are really happy about that.
I recently heard about Ride Rudder Aviation in US, which is the distributor for Pipistrel in US. I will reach out to them and invite them to some kind of these projects or crossing the US by this plane. Will be amazing as well, a little bit longer distance. But as I said, it's only a logistical challenge, and you need some, let's say, stamina and endurance to make it happen, because the limited range of this plane from 50 minutes to around 100 kilometers will make this a little bit challenging. But it would be absolutely cool if anyone jumps on that. And a week after our final landing in Chennis again, we showed this plane in Grenchen to the Electric Fly-In, which is the biggest, I would say, in Europe, biggest electric flying community event. And I met Bertrand Picard from Solar Impulse, and I think everyone with a pilot license knows the name by Bertrand Picard. For everyone who don't, he was the first guy around the world with a balloon, the first guy with a solar plane around the world. So it was he's absolutely an amazing person and really pulled off crazy projects. And he congratulated us to this amazing effort and achievements. And he said, well, records are there to break, and he warmly invites everyone to break these kind of records. And same on our side, Malik. I think we both are warmly invite everyone who break our records. It's less about the records; it's more to make this visible. And
you have to imagine when we came up with this idea, it wasn't to set up records; it was to just bring the plane up to Toby and show everyone in the community that it's able, that it's possible. But then we understood quite quickly that the records are gathering media attention. And we had so much more than we could have ever anticipated. Like we had so-called contacts, like people who saw what we did by the millions. We were on the biggest national TV stations in Germany, like RTL, Sat.1, WDR, Tagesthemen, which is very big in Germany. It's the news site.
Swiss media as well.
Yeah, Swiss media. So it was all over the place, and all the newspapers. We had DPA, which is a Deutsche Presseagentur, which is basically providing for all the small newspapers. So it was really everywhere. And I was stunned by that because I was the media contact and I wasn't anticipating this, which was kind of a problem because I was the ground crew. It's like you're in the ground crew car. You sleep 4 hours every night. You're rushing to the next airport and your phone is ringing because one big media outlet wants to talk to you. And then you have to decline the call because you have no time, because you have to tell the driver where we have to leave the Autobahn next. It's like, this was crazy. I think we could have used one or two more people explicitly only for that. I wasn't anticipating that a small bubble like the electric flying, not only electric cars, which are already a small bubble community, but also electric flying, an even smaller bubble within the bubble, would get that much media attention. And it did, which is a good sign. So we are really warmly inviting everybody to basically do the same and just make this thing bigger, make the transition faster. That's also what Tesla are saying, by the way. Every time they say we can't do this alone.
And to close on that, so we turned one of the disadvantages of this kind of plane, the limited range, to an absolutely crucial thing on this whole trip. Every stopover, every charge stopover we had was a small or medium or even large electric mobility happening. So we had several hundred people attending our landings, talking to us, get some whatever food, and it was really amazing to see how they are into this, how they are following our flight. And again, Malik did an amazing job in Instagram, and we had a live stream from the cockpit and a YouTube channel and everything. So
live tracking, people could track us on a map on our homepage where we were.
So we did a lot of work to make it happen, but that everyone jumped on these opportunities, this was great to see. So I'm so thankful for all the support from the community, Clean Electric community, or even medias and our sponsors. Loud shout out to the sponsors to make this happen. It was really cool, and everyone who wants to make it in his own country or a promotion project like this. I never thought about this until this minute, but reach out to me. I would help to organize it. I think we learned a lot.
Yes.
And
call us.
Let you know it is not as easy as it looks like from outside.
No, it's not.
I was about to say, if your trip between the Alps and the North Sea was already epic, I cannot imagine this guy that wants to fly all the way to Australia.
Within Australia. He's in Sydney, and I don't know where he wants to go, but Australia is big.
But he should take the plane on a ferry flight somehow, right? I mean, that's gonna be like those early days of aviation where they did like 30 stops to get to
Here we go
one
again.
continent to another.
I pity the ground crews that he's going to use already in like Australia heat. And I guess in Germany we have, Morell, we have quite a lot of those small airfields. I don't know how you would do that in Australia. I mean, you can't go cross country for sure, but I don't know. Yeah, tell me about it.
You will be surprised. I don't know the Australian airfield density from now, but I think you will be surprised how many airfields are over there. Same with US, I think.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
I think it's and again, it's a logistical challenge. So let's make it happen.
Yes.
Well, very good. So hats off to the electric mobility community that participated in this. Thank you so much for this very interesting, fascinating account of your electric flight, setting the records for this new era of aviation. Hopefully you will be soon coming up with new initiatives to continue promoting clean energy. Let me know. We'll be happy to feature you again whenever there's some new initiative that can be,
So we have the plane over here. You can come over to Switzerland and fly around, even as a passenger or as a pilot. It is absolutely stunning. Yeah, we have quite a list of interested people, but happy to put you on this list. I would share and spread the love for electric aviation.
Yeah, certainly. Whenever the travel conditions allow. Why not?
Yeah.
Last time I flew in Switzerland, I was flying in an old 1930s vintage aircraft. So it's going to be a completely different experience.
Absolutely.
It is like driving a Tesla in the air. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So absolutely also my pleasure. Thanks for being on the show. And I absolutely admire your drive for writing and even podcasting about this topic and spreading the word. It's awesome. Thank you, Mikael.
Thank you so much. Speak with you soon. And one more thing before you go. Remember, you can subscribe to the Allplane Podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and many other platforms. If you like this podcast, please do not hesitate to give it a good rating or to recommend it to a friend. See you soon.